Well, let's answer our question to begin with. Do you think do you think tactical squads are tax, Pete? Hi, everybody. This is Jason.
This is Pete.
And this is the Lost Legions podcast,
your weekly Horus Heresy show.
And what are we here to talk to you today about, Pete?
Being super cheesy hosts. No, we are here to talk about tactical taxes in front of a live audience, Jay.
That's true. We have a live audience this time around.
So a new...
Can you guys hear the cheering?
Yeah, I'll add it in later. A new perk for our Patreons. They can come and watch us on our recording sessions. So, all one or two of them are here today, which is great. So if you want to find out more and see how you can join in on the fun, head over to Patreon in the link below or above, wherever the links appear. Yeah. How about that?
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us, guys. I hope the recording's as stunning as it is for everyone else. Cool. So we're talking about tacticals. So now, are tacticals attacks is the question that we're kind of actually posing here. So we're talking about nothing that changes your compulsory troops, right? So you have to end up taking the normal basic troops. So what other compulsory troops are there?
Yeah. So you got assault marines, despoilers, and breachers. And they all have their own little roles, don't they, as such? So it's whether or not is it worth paying the points for tacticals or not? That's really the question, isn't it?
Right. Because you have these other ones that, like Pete said, can do a job, but they're more specialized, right? Like the tacticals are kind of more general. And how good are they as a basic troop? I mean, what do you think, Pete? What is your opinion on how good are they as a basic troop? When do you use them over assault marines or spoilers or breachers?
So I've used them quite a lot previously in my Iron Warriors, but again, as I started saying that, I realized it was because of my Rite of War made them better. Right. So maybe that's not a fair example. I am, however, running them.
No, but I actually think that that's a good example, because we're sort of talking about non-Rite of War. Just
okay, I see what you mean.
And what you're saying is you use them because you had a Rite of War that made them better. So what about in your non-Rite of War, or Rite of War is not changing your basic troops kind of lists? What do you normally run?
So I would run tacticals to just chuck them in a rhino and sit on an objective because they're cheap.
Yeah.
But they're not doing anything more than that. And that's kind of okay, but they don't do anything, right? That's the big issue with them. They literally don't do anything. They don't even kill other tacticals. Okay, right? They I know they're designed to score, but there are more attractive units, generic troop units in the list to do that. And I think that's kind of an issue. Not an issue. It's kind of a sad panda.
And I think we should note there are a couple of legions that legion traits really do help tacticals, and this might not necessarily apply equally to everybody, because you get like Dark Angels that have tacticals that can on 2s. Same thing with Imperial Fists with bolters.
So I think it really depends,
those,
right?
I would say, are kind of a step above, because I agree with what Pete's saying.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you run them quite commonly yourself?
So when I have okay, so let's break this down. When I first started playing 2.0, I ran them a lot more kitted out, because in 1.0, I would give them chain swords, and I really liked them. In 2.0, I kind of started out like that, and I kind of have slowly been dropping stuff off of them to the point where I'm just running them bare bones. Yeah. And then now I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm not even putting artificer armor on the sergeant, because I'm like, your job is to go sit on that objective and score it. Yeah. So in a way, like, I think we're kind of talking about this, maybe they are a bit of a tax, but the other thing is they're amazingly cheap for scoring units.
Yeah.
So where does that fall on the fence for you? Like, are they worth it? or would you rather have the Assault Marines as the spoilers or the Breachers? What would you rather have as your compulsory troops, right? Because these are the compulsory troops. We're not talking about the other specialists that you can take that can't fill your compulsory troop slots.
I think it depends on what job you want your compulsory troops to be doing. If you want them to be scoring early on, then tacticals are probably the best shout, actually, out of the compulsory options, because there's such a low threat and they'll be on the board to score turn one, and they can move up mid-table if they need to with a transport, but they pose no threat other than scoring points. So unless if there's like, I don't know, a marching couple dreadnoughts or a tactical squad, what are you going to try and gun down? You're going to try and gun down the dreadnoughts where you can, even though the dreadnoughts aren't going to be scoring any victory points, right? So I think they're great for turns 1, 2, and 3. Assault Marines, I would argue, are the polar opposite, because they can punch in mid-game and go and score backline objectives and actually do something to a backline objective unit.
Yeah.
That would be my argument. So I think the spoilers, sadly, and I don't mean this to just be a compulsory units overview now, but I think it's important to consider the other ones and give them merits to understand the merits, the pros and cons of the tactical marine, right? So the despoilers are, I think they're more fun to run than a tactical squad, but I think they're worse because they're just, I don't know, are they though? Is it worse to have a bolt pistol, or like they don't do anything, do they? The bolters just don't do anything.
So here's where I agree and disagree with you.
Okay.
The despoilers are worse to sit on an objective and just score it, because they don't have bolters, they don't have Fury of the Legion, and they can't shoot. I mean, they can shoot 12 inches, right? But they don't have like 3 shots because of Fury of the Legion. So I think they're objectively worse to sit on objective. But I think where they're better is if you mass them and run them like an Assault Marine to get an enemy objective. So I think that they are more like the Assault Marines, where they're good to punch in and get something. I think the problem is they're not as fast as Assault Marines, so they kind of suffer a little bit more if there's not more of them, which means you kind of need to invest more into them, which means you need, like, to kind of gear your list towards that. So I think like when you start heavily investing into spoilers, you're running with 40 troops across the board or something that they're not going to get all of. Yeah. While Assault Marines can get there quicker. And one unit of Assault Marines can be more flexible because they can also deep strike. Like I said, they're faster, so they can use cover better. So I think that like a unit of Assault Marines can be more useful than a unit of despoilers.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think that the interesting one out of all of these, because I think you and I agree from kind of this talking,
pretty much
the best mooks to hold objectives in your own field are tactical squads.
Yes, right? For the basic compulsory choices and for early game turns. Yes, I would. Yeah, okay. If you agree with that part, yeah.
So let's chuck breachers into this discussion. Where do these guys shine? Do they shine? Are they just cool because they have shields? Are they cool because you're Iron Hands and you have pseudo toughness 5? Like, so, where are the breachers cool?
I'd be they're man, they're tougher. They're tactical to a degree. They don't get the Heart of the Legion rule, which if they're literally sitting on an objective, you can't sniff at that. That can be quite powerful, especially if you're putting an apothecary. Yeah, exactly right. 4 up on a plane. Is that better than a 5 up invuln? I don't know. It gets a bit math hammery, right? Like to see which one's actually the more survivable unit at that point. Yeah. They're more points, and I think I keep going back to this point I sort of made a moment ago. You almost want them to be useless, like a tactical squad, because then they get left alone. Whereas a breacher squad can have some special weapons in there. if you're running 20-man squad, which, you probably wouldn't do to sit on an objective. But if you did, you could run 4 melter guns or 4 las cutters, or, the whole squad can have Volkites, and you can quickly make a unit which is a little bit tasty, so your opponent wants to shoot it, but also you end up sinking too many points into a unit to just score objectives. So I think, sadly, the way the game plays, tacticals are almost a necessary tax.
I need to bring this in because we do have a live studio.
I was going to ask if we have any opinions from
one of them actually has an amazing point. Is that Kerry said that breachers are a great way to get land raiders in, which I think is actually a really interesting point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of going a little bit off what we're talking about kind of for this subject, but I think it's a good point. Is that that I think goes with kind of like you use assault marines and spoilers in a different way. Breachers can be used in armored boxes, because you could get a lot more land raiders with them and go forward. But I think overall I tend to agree with you. With the way the game plays now, what you want are cheap, non-offensive scoring units that they'll look at, go, I'll kill you last, right? Which might change if there's more missions with progressive objectives.
Yes.
But as it stands now, what people tend to do, and then maybe this is our meta, so go ahead and tell us if it's different in your meta. I'd actually be really interested to know, is that people tend to take really killy units and then 3-ish to maybe 4-ish cheap scoring units.
Yeah.
And that'll be 2 bare bones tactical squads nowadays, and 2 recon squads or something. Your mileage may vary, or an assault squad and 2 bare bones tactical squads.
Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, the way I run tacticals now is completely bare bones. I am sad that I have the chain Bennett's on my Nightlords ones, right? But I mean, I think it looks cool.
I've put them on my guys as well. Yeah, exactly. It looks epic. But I
mean, it's fine. It's only 20 points. But at the same time, it's I barely use them, right?
Because arguably in a 3K game, are you going to be losing much from taking 6 10-man tactical squads and just accepting that all of your basic infantry are just there to throw bodies at objectives, and then being super aggressive with some elite infantry that you can throw in a combat, and it doesn't matter if they die as such, because they're not there to score it anyway, they're just there to tear shit up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I always try and make my command squad be going for a backline objective, but the command squad is tasty, so the opponent wants to cannon it to death or whatever, So I don't know. There's I might have to try and mess around with that at some point. Run 6 10-man tactical squads and just be yep, this is my infantry wall of death.
Well, let's answer our question to begin with. Do you think tactical squads are tax, Pete?
I do, but I think they might be a necessary tax, much like VAT and income tax and stamp duty tax and inheritance tax. I'm going to stop talking about tax.
I don't know if I agree with you about tax, but I do agree with you that the tactical squads are necessary tax, and I think that they're the best cheap troop right now. Cheap compulsory troop. When you don't switch out your compulsory troops for a right of war.
Yeah.
I think that they're just really good compulsory troops because they're so inexpensive. And even in the late game, they can be a lot more valuable if everything's dead. A 10-man squad that can do Fury of the Legion. So they can actually shine, I feel later in the game. But yeah, overall, I guess that's pretty much sums up our feelings. Let us know what you guys think. If tacticals are attacks, let us know how you use them.
Yeah, give it a like, give it a subscribe, drop your comments. See you in the next one.
Bye, guys.